Jessie and Gerald are on a long drive to a secluded lake house in Fairhope, Alabama. The plan is to spend a weekend alone, away from distractions, in an effort to repair their failing marriage. Jessie sits quietly in the passenger seat, looking out the window. The tension between them is obvious from the start. On the way, a stray dog wanders into the road. Gerald nearly hits it, swerving at the last moment. Jessie watches the animal through the rearview mirror, concerned. She wants to go back, but Gerald keeps driving. He tells her it's not their responsibility. When they arrive, Gerald unloads the bags while Jessie explores the property. The lake is quiet. The house is isolated. There's no one nearby to hear anything that might happen. Inside, Jessie spots a package of Kobe beef meant for their dinner. Without telling Gerald, she cuts off a piece and brings it outside to feed the stray dog, who has returned to the edge of the woods. She sets the meat down near the tree line and slowly backs away, watching the dog approach. Gerald walks in on her just as she finishes. He's annoyed. He bought the meat for their weekend, but he doesn't press it further. Instead, he reminds her to come upstairs. It's time to begin their game. Jessie changes into a new slip dress and sets the price tag on a shelf above the bed. Gerald enters the room, now visibly excited. He swallows a Viagra tablet, his second one today. He sets a glass of water on the same shelf where Jessie placed the tag. In his hands, he holds two sets of handcuffs. Jessie is hesitant. Gerald reassures her, says it's just for fun. She lies back on the bed. He cuffs her right wrist, then her left, locking both arms to the bedposts. She tests the restraints. They're secure. Gerald begins enacting a role-play scenario. He pretends to be an intruder, using aggressive language and forceful movements. At first, Jessie plays along, but quickly grows uncomfortable. Gerald doesn't stop. He wants her to scream. He tells her no one will hear them out here. Jessie panics. She tells him to stop. When he doesn't, she shouts at him to unlock the cuffs. Gerald pauses, staring down at her. Then, he clutches his chest. His breathing grows rapid. He stumbles backward, then collapses. Jessie calls out to him, thinking it's part of the game, but he doesn't respond. Gerald has suffered a heart attack. His body falls to the floor beside the bed. He dies instantly. Jessie is now alone. Both wrists are still locked to the bed. Jessie remains on the bed, stunned. At first, she believes Gerald is joking. She calls out to him, waits, then tries again, but his body remains motionless on the floor. Reality begins to sink in. Gerald is dead, and she is trapped. She tests the cuffs, trying to pull her wrists free, but the metal is tight and unforgiving. The bedposts are thick and solid. The cuffs don't budge. Her legs are free, but her arms are spread wide apart, held in place. Time passes. The room grows warmer. Sweat collects on her forehead. Jessie's breathing quickens as panic sets in. She shouts for help, calling out through the open front door, which Gerald left unlocked. But there's no response. Suddenly, Jessie hears a noise from downstairs. She listens carefully. Something is moving. She calls out again, hoping it's a neighbor or passerby. But then, she hears claws on the floor. It's the stray dog. It has entered the house through the open door. Jessie tries to warn it away, shouting, kicking at the air. The dog ignores her and sniffs around the room. Then, it approaches Gerald's body. Slowly, the dog lowers its head and begins eating. It rips a chunk of flesh from Gerald's arm and chews methodically. Jessie screams in horror, but can do nothing. She watches helplessly as the animal feeds. Moments later, Gerald rises from the floor, alive and speaking. Jessie stares at him, confused. Then she realizes something is wrong. The real Gerald's body is still on ground. The version standing and speaking is not real. This Gerald is a hallucination. He speaks calmly, but his words cut deep. He blames Jessie for everything, for the marriage failing, for feeding the dog, for being trapped. He taunts her with cruel honesty, revealing his inner thoughts she never heard when he was alive. Jessie tries to tune him out, but he keeps talking. He reminds her of how she avoided conflict, never challenged him, never spoke up. He mocks her attempts to stay strong. Then another figure appears, a second hallucination. This one is Jessie herself, but stronger, more confident. She speaks with clarity and determination, encouraging the real Jessie to think clearly and survive. The two hallucinations, Gerald and the confident Jessie, begin to argue. Gerald insists escape is impossible. The other Jessie says it's not. She reminds Jessie that no one is coming to save her. If she wants to live, she must save herself. Jessie listens. She starts analyzing the room and her surroundings. She looks up at the shelf, above the bed. The water glass and the price tag are still there. She needs water. She needs strength. She needs a plan. Jessie stretches her fingers toward the glass, inch by inch. It's just out of reach. Her hand trembles from strain. She adjusts her posture, bracing against the bed frame, and tries again. Her fingertips graze the base of the glass. With one last push, she tips it toward her and catches it with both hands still in the cuffs. But she can't drink. The glass is too wide, and her restrained wrists prevent her from lifting it to her mouth. She stares at the shelf again. The price tag from her slip dress is there, thin, rolled paper. Jessie remembers it and quickly grabs it with her fingers. She rolls it into a straw and inserts it into the glass. Carefully, she sips the water through the makeshift straw, quenching her thirst after hours of dehydration. Her strength slowly returns. Later that night, Jessie drifts into sleep. She wakes up in darkness. The moonlight casts faint shadows across the room. She hears movement near the corner. A tall, disfigured man stands silently in the shadows. His face is swollen and misshapen. His head is bald. His eyes glow faintly. He holds a small leather bag filled with bones and jewelry. Jessie speaks to him. He doesn't reply. He simply opens the bag and shows her what's inside. She closes her eyes and tells herself he's not real. When she opens them again, the man is gone. Gerald reappears and tells her that what she saw might be real, that death is coming for her. He begins calling her Mouse, a name from her childhood. The sound unsettles her. Jessie's mind travels back to the past. She is 12 years old, sitting at a pier with her father. They are on vacation. It's the day of a solar eclipse. Her mother and siblings are inside the house. Her father sits beside her, calm and quiet. He asks if she remembers sitting on his lap as a little girl. Jessie nods. He suggests she sit on his lap again. She hesitates, but agrees, not wanting to upset him. As she watches the eclipse, he begins touching himself. Jessie remains still, not understanding what's happened, frozen in fear. The eclipse ends. Jessie stares straight ahead, shaken. Back in the present, her breathing grows shallow. Her muscles cramp from the extended position. Her arms are numb. Gerald and the hallucinated version of herself speak again. They challenge her to stop hiding from the truth. They remind her that the choices she made in life, including her marriage to Gerald, were shaped by that day at the lake house. Jessie remains silent, listening. Jessie recalls what happened after the eclipse. Her father sat beside her quietly, then spoke in a soft, apologetic voice. He told her what happened was wrong. He said they needed to talk to her mother and get help. But then he shifted his tone. He described how much trouble it would cause, how her mother might leave, how the family would break apart, how everyone would look at her different. He told her maybe they should try her way, keep it secret, pretend it didn't happen. Jessie, frightened and ashamed, agreed. Her father left the room. The door closed. And just like that, she learned to bury pain instead of confronting it. Back in the present, Gerald's hallucination presses further. He tells Jessie that if she dies here, the coroner will call it an accident, but they will know what really happened. He tells her the man in the corner, the one with the bones and jewelry, will return when the sun goes down. Jessie's strength falters. Her spirit begins to break. The confident version of herself disappears. Gerald's voice grows louder, darker. He tells her everything dies, that everything serves the being. Jessie's eyes flutter closed, her thoughts consumed by fear and despair. Then, she sees it again, her childhood bedroom at the lake house. She is standing at the foot of the bed. Her younger self sits on the mattress, handcuffed. Jessie kneels and apologizes. But her younger self doesn't want apologies. She wants Jessie to remember. Another memory returns. That evening, during family dinner, Jessie's mother asks if she had fun with her father during the eclipse. Jessie drops her glass. It shatters in her hand, slicing her palm. The blood pools in her hand. Jessie remembers that pain. She remembers the sharpness, the blood, the moment of loss and panic. That memory becomes a solution. In the present, Jessie looks up at the water glass still on the shelf. She realizes it can be used again, this time to break, to cut, and to escape. She prepares herself mentally. She visualizes each step. Once she begins, she cannot stop. Her body shakes, but she commits. She reaches for the glass. With a deliberate motion, she shatters it against the shelf. She picks up a jagged shard and wedges it in place. Slowly, she begins to slice into her wrist. Blood pours down her arm. The pain is intense, but she continues. She cuts deep, peeling back the skin. The raw muscle and tendons are exposed. She pushes forward, forcing her damaged hand through the cuff. Her hand slips out, free but mangled. Jessie collapses back onto the bed, cradling her injured hand. The skin hangs loosely. Blood runs down her arm. She breathes heavily, fighting through the pain. Her free hand fumbles for the bed frame. With great effort, she pulls herself forward and grabs the headboard. She begins dragging the heavy bed across the floor. Inch by inch, she moves it toward the shelf where Gerald had placed the key. She reaches the shelf. Her hand trembles as she stretches upward, grabbing the key and unlocking the second cuff. Both arms are now free. Jessie slides off the bed and stumbles into the bathroom. She searches through drawers and cabinets, grabbing towels and pads. Using the materials, she wraps her bleeding hand and applies pressure to stop the flow. She uses maxi pads to absorb blood and binds them tightly with cloth. The pain is overwhelming, but she manages to stabilize herself. Jessie stands, but her legs give out. After being confined for so long, her muscles are weak. She collapses to the floor. Time passes. Jessie wakes again. The room is dim. The dog is beside her, licking at the blood on her hand. She groans and pushes it away, struggling to her feet. She grabs the car keys and limps toward the front door. From behind her, the dog growls, not at her, but at something else. Jessie turns. In the hallway, the tall, disfigured man is standing once more. He watches her silently. Jessie walks slowly toward him. She repeats to herself that he is only made of moonlight. As she gets closer, he reaches for his bag. Jessie removes her wedding ring and drops it inside. The man accepts the offering and does nothing. He lets her pass. Jessie walks through the front door. She steps into the night. She reaches the car and climbs into the driver's seat. Her vision blurs. Her grip is weak, but she starts the engine and pulls away from the house. Jessie drives slowly through the woods. Her hand is still bleeding. Her body is weak. Her vision fades in and out. She repeats to herself, stay away, but it's too much. The road blurs. Her head slumps forward. Suddenly, in her peripheral vision, she sees movement. She turns her head. The man made of moonlight is sitting in the back seat. He leans forward and whispers, "Mouse." Jessie loses control. The car veers off the road and crashes into a tree. The impact is violent. The windshield shatters. The hood crumples. For a moment, everything goes silent. Then Jessie opens the door and stumbles out. A nearby house is visible through the trees. She waves weakly and whispers for help before collapsing to the ground. Someone sees her. Footsteps rush toward her. Some time passes. Jessie is recovering. Her hand required skin grafts. It is wrapped and healing, but the scars remain. Physically and emotionally, she is not the same. She begins writing a letter to her 12-year-old self. She explains everything: the abuse, the silence, the years of avoidance, the control she gave to others. She admits that after the accident, she pretended not to remember what happened. It was easier to lie than to relive the trauma. But she remembers. Jessie uses some of Gerald's life insurance money to start a foundation. It is for survivors of abuse. She shares her story to help others, so no one else has to feel alone. Each night, she still sees the moonlight man in her dreams. He shows her the handcuffs, and each night, she remembers the fear. Her wedding ring was never found. One day, she reads a news article. A man named Raymond Andrew Joubert has been arrested. He has a rare condition called acromegaly, which causes disfigurement in the face and body. The article describes him as a grave robber and serial killer. He broke into cemeteries, stole bones and jewelry, and desecrated bodies. Over time, he began targeting living victims, focusing on men. One night, he was caught trying to mutilate a man while whispering about the moonlight. Jessie realizes it's the same man. 6 months have passed since Jessie escaped the lake house. She walks into a courthouse, her wounded hand still wrapped. Raymond Joubert, also known as the Moonlight, is being sentenced. He stands shackled in front of the court, his large head tilted downward. His bag of bones and jewelry has been collected as evidence. His face is just as Jessie remembers, swollen, hollow-eyed, and silent. Jessie approaches from the gallery. She stands calmly and calls out to him. He slowly turns. For a moment, their eyes meet. Jessie sees the faces of two others layered onto his, her father and Gerald. All three men merged in one image, representing the control, silence, and fear that ruled her life. Jessie stares at him and speaks clearly. "You're so much smaller than I remember." Raymond blinks, confused. Jessie turns and walks away. She steps outside into the sunlight. For the first time, she feels free. She no longer runs from the memories. She no longer silences her pain. The monsters, her father's abuse, Gerald's domination, and the real horror of the Moonlight Man no longer define her. Jessie has confronted every shadow, and now, with the eclipse finally fading, she walks forward toward the light. And that's the end of the story.